Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Rise podcast with me, your host, Katie Oman, women's empowerment coach, author, book coach, and all round kick ass human being. The Rise podcast is a place where we can talk to some really inspirational women to hear their stories of challenge and trauma and pain. But don't worry, it's not a pity fest. I'm not going to put out like crying pigs or nothing. This is about how they rise up, how they find their truth, how they are their authentic selves. It is inspiration and empowerment for us all. And I'm super happy today to have another amazing person to talk to. Her name is Shannon Sondrol, and I'm just over the moon, Shannon, that you agreed to do this with me. So thank you so much for being here. It really means a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So for those of people in on social media land and YouTube land who don't know you, I'll let you give yourself your introduction. Tell us all about you, who you are, what you do, and all that good stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, how much time do we have, really, right?
As long as you want.
So I am a coach for women and men as well.
Mhm.
And I have had my own journey of healing and navigation of trauma, of course, and horrible relationships and all the things that we move through in order to understand like what we're truly capable of here is what I feel. And so I've just been on my own journey of total expansion in the last 6 months and took off from Minnesota and went down to Florida all on my own for 4 months and just had this really powerful clearing out and shedding away and expansion happen within my own world, knowing that it was time for the next level. And so I
Yeah.
took that journey myself, first and foremost. And now I am just moving other women through that journey of expansion. So with VIP retreats, weekend retreats with me, as well as a 4-week expansion program, literally giving them the tools, techniques that I know to be tried and true and absolutely work in order for them to also move through expansion. And what I've realized about that so much as of late is that we have to be in an environment and a container that allows expansion to happen. And not every environment and not every container and not every coach or coaching program allows expansion to actually happen. Right. And so
Absolutely.
that has been like literally my huge aha as of late. And that's why I disconnected from what I was doing 7 months ago, 9 months ago, because I was still playing out an old story. It was old energy for me. And even though I was leading events and even though I was working one-on-one with people, I'm like, I have been doing this since 2017 and it is literally time for the next level. So let's cut all those cords. Let's disconnect from all that. Let's embark on this solo journey, kind of a return to God, if you will. And then, allow myself to step into the next level and then kind of go out into the world with that. So,
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, thank you. It's been incredible, and I just did my first client VIP retreat last month out here in Arizona. So to step another woman through that over the course of 2 days was like incredibly powerful because as you
Mm,
know, we go first and then we're able to create the program and then we're able to hold space and guide the other women through as
yeah,
well.
absolutely. I mean, so it sounds incredible. And I'm so with you in that kind of mentality and that intention. I really, the power of transformation and allowing transformation and embracing transformation, because it's such a natural part of life, right? I always say to people, but everything in nature changes constantly. And yet the only thing that's, alive on this planet that struggles with change is people.
So crazy. Yes. Oh my gosh.
That's crazy. So
Yeah, we are
was
not
there
meant
like,
to stay the same.
yeah, oh, for sure, for sure. So
No.
was there like a moment, or I mean, obviously you talk about this kind of this awareness and this kind of, I suppose, reflection and awakening that you wanted more and this expansion, but was there like a catalytic moment for you, or was it a progression?
Yeah, so in 2008, I had a spiritual awakening and it
Mhm.
was really fast and it was really intense. So it was a Kundalini awakening. I was 28. Some people call that a Saturn return, like all of
Yeah.
that. So it really started in 2008 for me. And being here in the US, when someone is going through something like that, and they don't know what to do with it, right? They pump you full of medications. They throw you in a psych ward. And that's exactly what happened because my clairvoyance had come online at that time.
Right.
I didn't know that I had it. I was hearing voices. I was experiencing all these things of the other dimensions, realms, spirits that I didn't even know was possible. Like
Yeah.
my third eye blew open, there it was. And so because I had so much fear and like, what the hell is this that I'm experiencing, and then ending up in the medical system and relaying to them parts of what I believed was going on, it became something that was spiritual and then was put into this box where it didn't belong. But the
Yeah.
reality was is I didn't have any shamans around me at the time. I didn't have any spiritual teachers. I didn't have any mentors. I was on a very physical world journey.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anyone who could hold me and say, Shannon, this is what you're going through. It's not psychosis. It's not schizophrenia. It's not all these labels. Right. And I would find that years later, but for 6 months, I was in the medical system. I was in the
Right.
psych ward 10 days. I was pumped full of medications at the age of
Mhm.
28 for 6 months, completely numb and comatose. But the way out of that journey for me was that I had been working with a chiropractor and he saw how I was before this happened and he saw me during it and after. And one
Yeah.
day 6 months later, he pulled me aside and basically said, Shannon, you're losing all your life force because of these medications. And if you want to get off them, I'm going to be the one to help you. So he was like earth angel, totally someone who came in and was like, I got you. And literally within 3 weeks, I was off all my medications,
Wow.
never to return to them again. But then, of course, had a huge journey of healing because there was a
Yeah.
lot of deep trauma that was inside of me and navigation into health and wellness and natural healing and all of that. So I left my career as a dental hygienist because I did not like it at all. It's not what I was meant to be doing. And I went to massage school and literally having that transfer of energy and healing through the power of touch for 6 months, both giving and receiving it, was
Yeah.
a huge first step into my healing. I mean, it was a huge chunk of me beginning to heal and take a different path
Yeah.
in this. So,
Wow. And I love that. I love that. And I think it's such an important message because, especially if you're about helping people and, whether it's coaching or healing or teaching or whatever it is, it's all helping other people in some capacity, right? And being that person, I think you're naturally drawn to give. I think, especially, no shade to any men out watching this, but I think as women, we've been conditioned to be the givers and the nurturers of society. And so, if you are like a coach, a teacher, a healer, for example, it's like really leaning into that energy, right? It's about this like giving to other people. And yet, listening to you, what's a really important takeaway, I think, is that you have to start with yourself first. Like you cannot give to other people unless you're giving to yourself first, filling up your own cup, right? I mean, I think that's such a beautiful message to take away from all of that.
oh, it's so true. And, the
Mhm.
reality was is like this was all happening around 2010. So this has
Mm.
been 13, 14 years in the making.
Yeah.
Right. And so where I am now is not just like that. It wasn't a magic pill. It was years of healing. It was years of
Yeah.
shifting. It was years of shedding away. And still, you know, 4 years ago during COVID or whenever that was, still going into a relationship with someone who was depressed and addicted. And my little achy healer's heart, I call it, because my heart literally aches for people that I know are either in addiction or in pain or in trauma and literally stuck,
Mm.
still going into those relationships thinking I could save someone, thinking I
Yeah.
was supposed to pull them out of the darkness, and time again getting taken down myself. Right.
Mm.
And so that has been one of the biggest shifts in the last 9 months
Yeah.
is yes, I'm here to serve. Yes, I'm here to give. And it will never again be at the expense of myself ever,
Mm.
whether that's friendships, whether that's like that's all an old story,
Yeah.
trying to save people, trying to giving so much of myself to benefit someone else
Mm.
at the expense of my own life, my own business, my money, all of that. Like that's all done now. And it's so amazing to say because I'm not only saying it, but I'm walking it.
Oh, I love
And
that. I love
it
that. I love
feels
that. I love when people who walk
feels
their truth.
so
It's
much
just
different
like,
now.
oh
Yeah.
my God. It's so good. But it's true, right? It's like a lot of healers, especially, or empaths, which, you know, I identify as both, are broken people, right? At their core. And they made, like, obviously not broken now, obviously, you know, people doing the work and doing the healing, but we've come from a broken place, right? And of course, there's layers of healing, right? As you say, it's not just like, okay, I've healed, I'm better now, woo, right? It's
Yeah.
years of it. It's like constant, and like the amount of people that I've had going more healing, I'm like, yep, it's layers, babe. It's like the biggest lasagna going, right? You just feel like you're going up. But broken people attract broken people, like attracts like, right? And so we constantly seem, and I've witnessed it within myself, that you seek to heal yourself through healing other people, right? But it's actually
Yeah.
you that needs the healing. And I think it's,
Mhm.
but we're not taught that. We're taught to, like, oh, this person needs your help, or this person needs your support, or this person, this person, this person, this person. And I think at some point, one of the biggest things for me was going, well, what about me? Not in a selfish, narcissistic way. It's just realizing, like, I haven't really done my own stuff yet, you know? So I think that's great. And like I say, I hope everyone watching that is kind of feeling that on some level.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is too, is like my whole business now has been restructured because it's
Mm,
like, what works for me? What
yeah.
time do I want to have a call with the client? What
Mm,
dates work for me to offer a VIP retreat? Right. And it's all structured around that. Whereas before it was like, what works best for the outside world? And
yeah.
then let me structure myself around that. Or what works best for my clients, and then I'll just do that. And it was so out of alignment
Yeah.
with my own rhythm and my own truth and how I was going to live my life and essentially design my life. And so the last, 4 to 6 months has been a total redesign. But the first part of it was the huge shutting away. Like I went
Mm,
down to Florida and I swam in the ocean every single day to clear and shut away and get that energy that was in my field and those cords that were on me off of me because it wasn't my stuff. Some of it was
yeah.
mine, but not all of it. And I'm like, all this needs to go so that I can show up to the world and do what I'm here to do for the world, not just for one person, not for one family, like the capacity that we have to show up and hold space for large groups and large events, all of that. But I can't have things that are attached to me or draining me or depleting me in order to go to those heights that I know I'm meant to go to, that I am going to go to in this
Yeah.
lifetime. And so
Mm,
that was such a powerful part of it. And then, getting these activations of, if you want to call it higher energy or just expansion that was happening and all of that. And I came out to Arizona to be with my family for 3.5 weeks. And what I didn't realize was such a huge part of expansion was the rest in the integration period.
yeah.
And I landed here at my grandma's house, which is where I got this beautiful hat. It was from my grandma. And it was just a safe place for me to rest. And what happened in that time was literally what people call the embodiment of everything I had
Mm,
just went through. It was the anchoring in, it was landing in my body
yeah.
of everything the last 3 and 4 months that I had personally moved through. And I
Yeah.
was, wow. And I
Mm,
became so the difference of like me now versus me a couple years ago or 2017, 2018, when I first launched my online programs into this work, is that I'm so incredibly grounded now and
yeah.
anchored and in my body and
Yeah.
in life and living life in a way that I never have before.
Yeah.
And
Rather
and
than being in the mind, which of course is what most of us do, right? We're constantly, it's like we worship at the altar of the brain, but until you take it down, until you embody it, it's like it's not fully aligned, it's not fully connected. So you have to, I talk about this when I'm mentoring people. I like, the world is a difficult place, right? In some regards, it's not completely, we're not writing ourselves off just yet, but it's a difficult place.
yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of fear energy, there's a lot of, lots of things going on, people really struggling. And I think there's sometimes a desire to escape that. And I think a lot of people have to be very aware and self-aware that spirituality and spiritual practices can be seen as an escape.
Mm.
from the body and from the 3D and from the human self. Certainly I was doing that when I first awakened. And then you realize that, like, unless you bring it down, unless you kind of bring it into mind, body, spirit level all the way down, it's like you're swimming in the shallow pool. Like you're not fully doing the work. You know, you can do it on the surface level, but you've got to bring it down.
Right. Yes. And that, I mean, that's what I see, you know, and I'm like, I said yesterday on my webinar, like, we're not home reading the healing books anymore. We're not like that. Like, this is about having the very real lived experience of let's move you through healing. Let's move you through clearing the blocks. Let's move you through something like a weekend retreat so you can have the very real lived experience
Yeah.
of what this is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of like me too, when I first started, or at one point in my journey, I was just meditating all the time because I would go to these higher dimensions and realms that felt so good. And I got to
Yeah.
check out. I'd meditate like 4 hours a day or something in my meditation chair that I had, and I loved it. But I wasn't an active participant of life at that
Yeah.
time. And I realized that. Right. And then you're visioning and then you're manifesting. But is it actually landing in the physical world? Or are you
No.
just caught up in this fantasy world, in this daydream? And then you wake up and you're like, but my reality looks completely different.
Exactly. I was
What
going to
that
say that.
fantasy
You come
is.
back and you're like, but my life is crap. What the hell? It was so nice up
Yes.
there.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what changes at some point along the journey. And I think that's where the sweetness is, the gold is, where you're like actually living life and you're like,
Yeah.
I am actually truly at peace. I'm actually truly happy. I'm actually truly only, you know, doing the work or creating in the way that I want to be creating, in a way that is true for me, not what the world expects of me or not what I should be doing, but in a way that is so real and raw and authentic.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm interested because obviously it's a lot of been about, you know, your healing and your embodiment and your awareness and all
Mhm.
that, which is wonderful. It's so inspiring. But of course, we don't live in a bubble. We live in with, you know, our social relationships on every level have a knock-on effect. So you having this huge expansion and transformation, has that had an impact on the relationships and the people around you? And how's that been to handle?
Absolutely. You know, because my family, they are very physical world people. They're very, very grounded and anchored in the physical world. So when I went through this, they took the truth of the doctors and the medical system as complete truth because they didn't know any different.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't until I took my journey and found my spiritual teacher, and then at some point came out with my story and said, here's what I experienced, but here's what the truth was for me. Right. And I got lots of kickback from that. Oh my God, I got so much kickback. Like, she's gone crazy. What the hell is she doing? Like all this, like literally. And it was very hard for me because I went back in my shell. I couldn't own
Yeah.
it, you
Yeah.
know? And so then I started putting myself in places with like all these psychic mediums and spiritual people. And I'm like, this isn't quite my jam either, but I have to know that I'm safe to at least tell that part of my story,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm.
And so, yeah, and lost a ton of friendships along the way, you know, still in the last 4 months when I came out with total authenticity. And not just that, but it was the integration of my shadow as well. And then I was owning every single part of myself. And two people that were closest to me, but I knew shouldn't be, or whatever that was, like those
Yeah.
friendships fell away because true colors were just revealed all around. And
Yeah.
it wasn't the right dynamic or the people coming with me for the next chapter, you know?
Mhm.
And so that's very hard to look at too, when you think these are my people or this is my best friend. And then you realize, actually, that's only because I was people pleasing, or that's only because I was still dimming myself down so that possibly she had the upper hand, right? These
Mm.
like weird power dynamics that we can get
Oh
into as
yeah.
women that I've
Yeah.
so noticed, right? And it was fine when I was here. The minute I started owning it all, like all my beauty and all my radiance and all my glory, like that's when a couple of the women who used to be closest to me kicked back and said, I'm leaving your life. And I'm like, cool. That's cool. If that, you
Absolutely.
know what I mean? I
Absolutely.
like, yeah.
Mm.
So
Absolutely.
and so, yeah, really, definitely some very sticky situations to navigate through. And I'm not saying I got it all right by any means, but I also know that I feel better not having those friendships in my life that were based on something that wasn't true and wasn't real. And there was some sort of fakeness about it all that just didn't resonate with, and very shallow, like a
Yeah,
shallowness. And I realized that in my inner circle, I wanted those friendships strong and I wanted them deep. And if they weren't
absolutely.
going to be that, then they didn't maybe even belong in my life, but they definitely didn't belong in my inner circle.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it took me a really long time to realize that people are a reflection of you. They are your mirror. And so
Mhm.
it's interesting to think, it's at some point, if you talk about there's this like fakeness and shallowness, and there's like this, almost wearing a mask, I suppose. It's like you can recognize now that you were giving those things to yourself, and all they were doing was reflecting it back at you. But it's
Yeah.
quite a hard truth when you realize that, when you're like, oh my God, like I am not, I think I'm being my fullest self, and people around me are showing me that I'm really not, you know? It's not an easy kind of truth to sit with, I think, especially for people that have been in your life for a really long time, because it's not easy to let go of people, those relationships, right? But I
Mhm.
mean, my mom, God love her, she says that life is like a train, and we all have our own train, and you'll have people that will get on your train and they may stay for a while, then they'll get off the train, they'll get on somebody else's train, and then you'll get on somebody else's train. And they said, but there's only like one table. You sit with one table, and there's only room for so many people around your table to stay with you for your journey. And yet we try and squish people around the table. It's like, you've got to be with my table. It's like, no, it's okay. People get off and people get on. That's just the nature of life.
Yeah. Well, and one of the biggest things that I realized too is when people weren't choosing me, that was
Mm,
so hard for me. And I would chase them in the
yeah.
past because I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be chosen. I wanted to know that I was wanted. And where this comes from, honestly, was when my mom got pregnant with me. She was not expecting it. It was like an accident, if you will, right? My
Mm,
brother was only 2 months old, and then my other brother was 3 years old. And so she had so much anxiety and so
yeah.
much, not that they didn't want me, but when I found that out at the age of like 7 or 8 or whatever, that I wasn't planned, that I was this unexpected thing, I felt not wanted. And I
Yeah.
felt like all that, and so as we know too, when someone's pregnant and they have anxiety and they have like that is transferred, right? And so,
Hmm.
you can look back and connect all these different dots along the
Yeah.
way. Uh,
Absolutely. That constant desire to like prove your worth, prove that you are worthy of being here, and that, like me, I should be here. There's that constant thing that's kind of follows you through. It's really interesting.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, so that was a huge shift as well in the
Mm,
last 6 months of just saying, nope, I am who I am, and this is who I am. And of course, like the self-love piece. But what I realized too was, especially when I landed here in Arizona, I'm like, I have fallen completely head over heels in love with myself. Like, not even just that I love myself, but it was like this thing, this new level, this deeper, richer in love
yeah.
thing that I had. And I'm like, this is incredible and this is amazing. And of course, when it first comes online, it's, stronger and intense. And then as it lands in and settles in, it all kind of, but um, yeah. And you see that, as you said, you see all of that reflected back in the people that are
Absolutely.
you and in the way that you're loving yourself, but the feeling of it. I can be out for my morning walks, right? And I'm just strolling and I'm out here in the desert, like strolling. It's so beautiful. The sun's coming up, the mountains are in the background. And I'm like, I'm just at so much peace
Mm,
and so much love within myself. And I don't want to say I have nothing, but like it's so simple
yeah.
and it's so not materialistic. And it's just so like, yeah, how I've always wanted life to be. Like that's what it is now.
Mm. Is self-love a thing that came on kind of as a progression? Was it a natural thing of embodiment, or was it something like, did you have to do specific things to help it along its way?
Um, I think, yeah, it was definitely part of the journey of healing, right? And so I had a dog who was my partner for most of my 30s. And when she passed, and I realized that it was like who I was giving all my love to and who I was receiving unconditional love
Yeah.
from. Total soulmate, all of that. And when she passed, then, and that was no longer like in the physical, and she wasn't even around me, like she was gone
Yeah.
somewhere else right away. And so that was a huge piece of then cultivating that unconditional love for myself. That was a huge piece of it, moving through that grief of losing her, for sure.
Yeah.
Coming
Because
out
you
the
realize, and I say this to people all the time, it's like, you know, people will come and go out of your life. It's just the nature of it. Like I said with the train analogy, you know, we lose people through choice, we lose people through other people's choices, we lose people through death. It's just the nature of life. But it doesn't matter where you go or what you do. You cannot escape yourself. You take you with you wherever you go. And Lord knows there are many people that try to run away from themselves or hide from themselves in different substances or try and, you know, whatever it is. You cannot escape yourself. And so I say to people, you've got a choice. You can spend the majority of your life having a very difficult relationship with yourself and being at war with yourself constantly, and there's going to be an impact of that on your life. Or you can say, do you know what? I am going to try and give myself the love that I've desperately been seeking from everybody else. And it's not easy. I mean, I've been on this journey now since 2016, 2017. And I would say, like, some days I am Beyonce and some days I am Gollum. And that's okay, because we all have Gollum days.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And,
Mhm.
and one of the things that I found, I just found this the other day, is being so critical of myself when I like make a mistake or make the wrong decision, what I would say would like made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
Or something that wasn't aligned with me now and maybe was aligned with me 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that until I like moved through it. And
Yeah.
and I can like still like get those voices that are like beating myself up and very critical, you know, and I'm able to shift out of it so much quicker. Like,
Yeah.
we're not doing that anymore. It's done. You're good. Like,
Yeah.
here we are, on to the next, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such an
Um,
important takeaway again, because it's like, it doesn't matter how much work you've done, how much healing you've done, or how much you're trying to love yourself and all of that good stuff. That voice, that inner critic, that ego is still there. It's not, the people are going to say, I'm going to like destroy the ego, I'm going to get rid of the ego. I'm like, well, unless you have a lobotomy, it's part of your brain. You know, it's literally there.
right.
The key thing is, like you said, is to not lean into it. It's to not allow it to then take over. It's not to believe the voices that's coming up, and to move through that a lot quicker. And it's again, it's a process, right?
Yeah, yeah, yep. And I mean, that's where like the tools and techniques come in, right? And the
Yeah.
breath work comes in and the presence comes in. And that's why I go for my morning walks every single morning, a little bit after sunrise, because
Yeah.
it helps me to bring that presence and bring
Yeah.
that breath so that when I'm out in the world and I need that tool or I need, it just is. I don't even have to
Yeah.
think about it. It's like a default setting now, right? And
Yeah.
then when the mind starts going crazy and you catch it, it's so much easier to pull yourself out of it when you've
Mm.
practiced over and over and over and over and over, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, versus someone who doesn't have that tool or hasn't done the practice or hasn't taken time, right, to cultivate the mindfulness or the healing. Um, so yeah. And
Yeah,
that's
no, it's true. It's like sitting down at the piano. Sorry, it's like sitting at the piano and expecting to play Beethoven from like immediately.
oh my
Like,
gosh.
it's not. You have to put in the practice.
Yeah. And you know, Katie, I used to do readings for people, and people love readings because they're just so fun and give me all the information and they love it. So anytime I'd put an offer out for the reading, it's like all these people would sign up. And then I'd put an offer out for like an actual program, like show up and do the actual work, and crickets, nothing, you know? And I'm like, yeah, like I totally, because there is, I feel like still, and maybe you see it differently, still a very small percentage of people that actually want to and will show up
Mm.
to do the actual work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much easier to give your power away to somebody else that you perceive to have more knowledge than you, or more experience than you, or more talent than you, and so is somehow better than you, rather than actually realize you have all that within yourself. And it's just a matter of learning how to tap into it and connect to it. But of course, a lot of people are worried about if they go into their shadow, what they're going to find down there. And the fear of that, I think, stops them. It's a huge block. So shadow work is like been one of my huge things for me to work on, because it's a scary thing, and especially when you've never done it, because the mind will tell you that it's like full of just everything, right? Like all of like the earth badness is sitting within you. So
Yeah. And the interesting thing about shadow too, that I've been reflecting a lot about, is how we blame and shame people for their shadow. And I know I've done that with partners I've dated and people close in my life, blame them and shame them for aspects of them. And that was the thing that was so interesting that someone closest did to me, was blame and shame me for one of my shadow aspects, And I was like, wow, that's so interesting that we do that, because the thing is if we just hold safe space or sacred space for that shadow to come up and out, and then essentially be integrated
yeah,
into the whole being, making the wholeness, the full being of, integration and wholeness and all of that,
yeah,
we wouldn't have to shove it back down and hide it and tuck it away for it to then come rearing its head so forcefully the next time that it wants to come out. So
yeah. Or projecting it onto other people, like, it's you,
Mm.
it's you're the problem, it's not me, which is what we all do as well, of course. So yeah,
I
totally.
know. Yeah. Projection's very interesting too. Once you get clear
Mm.
on that and you see how much of that is actually happening here. Wow.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, for sure. And again, it's not necessarily comfortable initially, because you have to face yourself. But like anything in life, the first time is always the hardest. And when you realize it's not as scary as what you're telling yourself it is, you're more than inclined to go, okay, I can do this. Let's have another go. Right. And also that you don't have to heal it all in one day, because you're not going to. Literally, you would be in the psych ward if you tried.
Oh my gosh, right? Yeah, and also that healing doesn't have to be, oh my God, this is so heavy. And this is
Mm,
so like, and I know that I moved through healing years ago and it was so heavy and I was so serious about it. And I
yeah.
was so like focused and I was shutting out the outside world and I couldn't have a drink and just like all these things. And I'm like, that's not how I'm doing it anymore. And that's not how I'm moving my clients either,
Yeah.
because along the way, there's still so much magic and joy and bliss that we get to experience as
Yeah.
we're clearing out
Absolutely.
trauma,
Mm,
right? And as we're clearing the layers and all of it. And so, yeah, so we still have to keep living regardless,
yeah. Yeah.
because
For
we
sure.
do only have so much time here. So,
Exactly, exactly. And and I'm a huge believer that love and happiness is one of our key reasons why we're here. So, we weren't born to be miserable. So, don't make
yes.
yourself miserable just because you think you should.
And the other day, Katie, I'm at the gym, right? And I'm at the gym and I'm doing a little dance and I'm like singing and in between the machines that I'm doing in the weights. And I'm just like, I like being at the gym. Otherwise, I would not go. I'm bringing
Exactly.
joy and happiness into my workout. And I look around and 80% of the people look dead, first of all, like zombies. And then the other of them are just like so not happy to be there.
Oh, yep.
Right. And I'm like, wow. And not out of judgment, but I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Right. So then I'm
Mhm.
like giving them a wink and a little smile and just like spreading some joy while I'm there. But I just know that we can do it so differently. And it
Mhm.
hurts my heart when I see people with so much trauma, literally not able to experience happiness
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
of what's going on within them.
Mm,
And they might fake a smile and they might whatever, but like, because you can see beyond that and you can
yeah,
feel the energy that they have around them, right?
yeah.
And that's what I'm so passionate about leading people through, is like,
Mm,
I want you to know what lives on the other side, and I want you to know why it's worth going into it and dealing with that and clearing it and healing it and bringing it all to the light.
mhm.
Because when you purge that out of yourself, the freedom that you have and the joy, then the space that's created for you to actually experience joy and for
Yeah.
you to actually design your life in a way that's truly how you want to live here and truly how you want to spend your days here. I mean, that's what I
Oh,
think is important. And so that's what hurts my heart. And sometimes those people are in our family, right? And we see them struggling so much with their health or addictions or whatever. And it's just like all we can do is be the example, right?
Yeah.
And all I can do is show up with the light and just stand in my truth and stand in everything that I am and intend that it'll shake something up in them as well.
Oh, I love that. I mean, that's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful intention. And I think, if we all hold that for ourselves in our own way, whatever that looks like, I think, we'll all move ourselves to where we need to be. So normally at this point, I ask people what's next for them on their journey, but I actually want to reframe this question.
Yeah.
What is your big, scary dream for your future? Because I think you can go there. I know, I know you can go there. So not just like, where do you want to go next on your path? What is your big, like, what's the ultimate? What's the big, scary dream?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I have a couple of them, so I can't just say one I don't feel. But that
What do you
honestly, I had goosebumps over my whole body when you asked that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so good. That's so good. I love that question. Okay, so one of them is having babies at the age of 44 and showing it over social media whenever it's time to share that. And having a real natural birth, which is why I'm going to the gym every day, because I'm getting my body strong and preparing, because I keep hearing preparation meets opportunity. Preparation meets okay, let's do it. I don't even have the man yet. I don't have the man yet, but I know he's coming, right? And so I'm at the gym every day. I'm like, let's get this body strong because I know I can do it. Keeping myself healthy, like I know it's possible, and I want to be the example for other women. Because I had women who were very boxed in years ago saying to me, well, we're having our babies. Like, when are you going to hurry up and have yours? And I'm like, that's not my journey here. And I was just saying last night, it's like, I watched them and what they did, and some of them went back to work after 3 weeks and after 3 months. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Like, I learned everything through them on how to do it and how not to do it. And so now I get to do it much later in life. But so that's one of the big ones. And then I would say speaking on stage, I love speaking on stage, and it just lights me up. And the capacity that I feel like I have is for hundreds of people. Like, I have so much energy that comes through. It's just like,
I mean, you hide it well, right?
Arena. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no fear anymore. Like, the fear's
No,
gone.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I was just like, and I don't mean to be like whatever when I say that. Like, you shine. Like, you just this light. And and I mean that in the most beautiful way, is that you have this like real light in you, this passion, this energy that needs to be let out. There's no doubt in that at all.
Yeah, and speaking of that, Katie, like when you say the needs to be let out, like that's why I used to numb myself. That's why I
Yeah.
used to drink so much and smoke pot and all this stuff, because I didn't have an outlet for that energy.
Yeah.
And everyone around me is like, you're too much and you're too crazy and you're too this. And I'm like, okay, let me tone it down a little bit then. Tone it down and just, right? And so you're so right that it's so crucial for us to have an outlet for all that energy.
Yeah, all of our magic, all of our power,
Oh,
and to not be embarrassed by that, to not be afraid of that, to not be ashamed of that,
yes.
right? Because we are taught that it is something like, oh, who does she think she is? She's too much. Like our natural beingness, our natural magic, our natural power is somehow a bad thing. And I do it in my coaching all the time, is to turn the light on and try and leave it on. Like, don't just turn it on for a little bit and turn it off again. Like, turn your light on and just have it on. And if people don't like it, that's their problem. It's not a you problem.
Yes, yes. And that was such a very real part of my journey on dimming it down so much because of the kickback that I got, especially
Yeah.
from other women, of who does she think she is? And sometimes it wasn't even words, it was energetic, right? And now I'm like, and perhaps it comes with age, a little bit of it, but I'm like, this is just, it just is, right? And
Yeah.
it just is.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. For sure. Beautiful. It's really beautiful. So go now, because obviously I'm sure people watching this are going to be massively inspired and probably want to find out more about you and obviously your beautiful offerings. So where can we find you online? We need to know.
Absolutely. So I also have a YouTube channel. So if you just Google my name on YouTube, that'll pop up.
Fab.
I do lives on there and videos and all of that. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook. And to be
Fabulous.
honest, my website is down right now because it needs a total revamp. And so that is in process. But yeah, all my stuff is mostly on Instagram, YouTube, and then there's still Facebook kind of lingering in the background. So
Like most of us, right?
yeah, I know. And sometimes
Your
trying to keep it
Facebook.
all going is like, wow.
I know Facebook's one of those things. It's like it's there, just kind of like you can't really let go of it, but it's not like the main focus. No, I feel you on that one.
Yes, yes.
Oh, bless you. But I'll put all of the links down here, so you gotta go and check her out. Like, if nothing else, this has been like it's like watching a sunset and a sunrise and a firework all at the same time. So I hope that people are massively inspired.
Love that. You're right. Sometimes it's just show up in your presence. Sometimes words are not even needed, and it's just
No,
the energy.
absolutely. I mean, and that's just to close. That is not about what you look like, right? I mean, it helps. It helps. I mean, if you're feeling fine, you're looking fine, you are fine. But it's about your energy. It's your presence, and when you feel good, your energy walks into the room 5 minutes before you do, right? It's like there's this aura about you, and we all know people like that. And it's not about what they look like. It's about that an inner authenticity, excuse me, and an inner knowingness and an inner connection and an inner embodiment. That's where the confidence really comes from.
Absolutely. And it's something that can't be faked, and it's something
No,
that can't be bought. And
no.
so that's
Doesn't come from
why,
a beauty counter. It does not come from a beauty
right?
counter.
No, exactly. And the thing is that like everyone is capable of that, and everyone can
Mhm.
cultivate that
Yep.
within themselves. It's
Yep.
just, I think a lot of people don't know that they can, or there's fear around it, or there's something blocking it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
yeah, it's here
oh,
for
I
everyone.
so agree with you. I so agree with you, Shannon. I just think, oh my God, at this time, I knew, like when I messaged you and I said, do you want to come on my podcast? I was like, this is going to be a good chat. And I'm not wrong. I knew it was going to be. And I'm so happy that I got to talk to you. It's been wonderful. So thank you so much, my darling. Honestly, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Katie, so much. It
You're
was
very welcome. So, no, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope that it's like myself, and I hope you can feel that in me. I hope that it's lit you up and given you good takeaways and good inspiration and all that beautiful stuff. And just thank you for watching. If you like this, as ever, give me a little share and a like. I appreciate it. But as ever, I will see you guys on the next one. So thank you, Shannon. Thanks
Bye.
everybody watching, and big love. Take care. Bye, everybody. Bye.